What I don't like what the left did for us too is like, especially for here in which would be the government, they removed news stories. So we can't even share news stories. And that's like, I'm like, so I have friends in the States, like, hey, is this true? I'm like, I can't see it. They have to send me like a screenshot and I have to go and look at it herself. And it's like, that's a problem, right? Like when you're trying to restrict stuff, there's problems with the algorithms, but there's also restrictions of free speech. I remember I said, I tried to just, if I say anything that I don't like about the government, and it's like, then like, you can't post that. It's just funny. It's like, well, it's free speech. Well, I'm not like, it's not hate speech. It's like, what do you mean?
Welcome back to the DC Talks podcast with Mr. David Chinelli. I'm Owen Osende. We're back today, and topic of discussion today. We had a podcast episode we did like 2 weeks ago about Charlie Kirk, and we were just looking at his death and analyzing it and everything that came with it. For today, see this as a follow-up, but on the more of how politics have become more of a moral battlefield between people on either political spectrum. And of course, I wanted to talk to David about this because we're both seeing things take a shift, and how having this conversation can cause you to be canceled, can cause you to lose your job. There's a lot of repercussions that come from you taking a stance, and how morality has now been injected into politics, and what does that mean for our future. Before we kick things off, Mr. DC, how you doing?
I'm all right.
I love your jacket, man. It's actually one of my favorite ones. The white one was one of my favorite.
It's a whole suit, but it's like you don't see it from the bottom down, so I don't have to wear this bottom. But yeah,
I like it as a clean look. But how you feeling today? How you doing?
Getting there. Yeah, I'm better.
Getting better?
The electrolytes are kicking in again. Now, if you guys, we record 4 one day, and it was a little rough start, but doing much better now. Buddy.
No, I see you're smiling now. Like there's a lot more.
Well, the first episode we did was pretty heavy too, right? So that didn't help.
That's true. That's true. You know, that was a tragedy that happened, and definitely it's not good. It's not good at all. But to kick things off, one of the key things that really stood out to me was how we spoke about how people reacted to it, but what does this mean moving forward for our society? There is the left, there is the right. People affiliate with either one of those, and there's people who are centrist, right? They kind of go in the middle. They don't want to ruffle the feathers, but they just kind of live their lives. The assassination of Mr. Kirk really illuminated something where now advocating for a particular stance comes with severe consequences no matter which side you're on. You could be on the right. You could say, you could be in a work meeting and say, hey, I support this person. Before you know it, people are finding ways to get rid of you. You can be on the left side, something like that. So,
I even got pushed back when I was saying, remember when Carney came out and him and Trump were supposed to be, I don't know if we talked about this podcast, how this is back in, I think, August or July or August, I forget what it was. And Carney had set a deadline for Trump for the tariffs, and it was like a couple of days away. And then he's like, well, I'm going to support Palestine. And which, first of all, they weren't supposed to do because Congress wasn't open. They hadn't opened like a ballot and stuff too. But Carney said, well, when we open up, Parliament, and then we're going to vote for it. And I'm like, I just posted, I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, I'm not saying you don't agree with it. Bless you. But I'm not saying you don't agree that I'm like on my stance on Palestine. I just keep away from that because it's just one of those things. I'm not taking a moral stance on either one of them. I'm just like, because I keep hearing both sides. I keep hearing a lot of different things, and I don't know enough about it. I'll be honest with you. And I don't post about the Palestine and the Israeli. I just don't, right? But I just post this. I'm like, buddy, can you just wait? And a friend of mine saying, well, it's the moral thing to do, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's not the moral thing. I was just like, timing in politics matters, right? If you're waiting for a response from Trump and you do the exact opposite he wants, of course he's going to raise the tariffs on you. I'm like, let's not be stupid here, right? I'm like, you can put your support behind somebody, but when you're negotiating with somebody, don't piss them off, right? Especially when they have the upper hand. And that was my point. So I'm finding that politics of it's weird because now it's getting into everything, right? I think in the past where it was politics used to be like, what road are you going to build? Or what church are we going to put here? Or what things? And now it's like, are you going to chop off your children's genitals or not? Like it becomes a moral stance. It's the change has been dramatic, right? And it's just, I find it's been like the last 10 years, last decade, it's been getting worse and worse. Whereas like in the past, it didn't matter if you were like here in Canada, like people would switch back and forth between conservatives and liberals. Like, and I posted something the other day, and it's like we all used to start off as liberals, but the way things have changed lately, until you own a business, until you start paying like all these taxes, and you realize, I'm like, yeah, we're getting cheated from the government, right? And sorry, people like, I'm not saying we don't need to pay taxes. I do, but the amount of we're getting taxed here is ridiculous. We're one of the most taxed countries in the world. Then you switch to conservative, right? And just because you see that, it never used to be like that. Like I've talked before, like Jean Chrétien, I thought was a great prime minister for us.
What year was he prime minister for those who?
I don't know, in the 90s, I think it was.
90s,
I don't
okay.
know. I'm trying to remember when I was a kid. From what I remember, I didn't really like Brian Mulroney at all. We just did not. And our family was more liberal. Like we're always voted liberal. And actually, my mom used to work for an NDP candidate, in the Ontario government, Ed Philip. And we voted for him until like the NDP actually took over one term and killed Ontario. Yeah, so we'll never vote NDP again. But I was too young to vote, right? But I just remember my mom saying, "Oh man, we got hoodwinked." Anyway, long story short, or long story long, the politics have changed, right? Since we were a kid, right? It really hasn't changed. And I find that the ideals, like we're all there. I thought all the politicians, the parties, when it came to family members and just family in general, and church and state and all that stuff too. Like I felt that the both sides were closer together, and they had an agreement, right? It just like they understood. But now it's like, wow, if you're like a Democrat or you're a Republican, you're like so opposed. If you're a conservative or a liberal, like you're on opposite ends of the spectrum. We didn't grow up that way. You know,
can you recall, because you mentioned 10 years ago, can you recall a moment or something you saw that kind of, in your opinion, that sparked the movement,
shift
that caused a shift to go down this path?
No, and I think it just happened gradually for us, because I don't think people knew, like Trudeau he was trying to be like get humanitarian of the year award or something too. So he thought he was trying to be like everything. And it's been coming out too that he was also gay, right? It's like, so even though he had a wife, he was involving in homosexual activities and stuff too. So he wanted to bring that to the forefront and he had his own power. But I don't remember when the shift happened. And I can't remember but I remember like all of a sudden it just, things got heated pretty good. And it might have been, I think maybe during COVID, I felt like it got really ramped up, like huge. And I felt that the whole COVID stance, I remember before saying to Natalie and saying, look, I didn't really know up until like a few years ago, like the difference between like Republican and the Democrats. And I don't mean that like, because I never knew there was much a divide there until like, I never really paid attention to the U.S. politics. I lived in the U.S. for 4 years. Nobody really talked politics. It wasn't, and I'm talking like I lived in Wisconsin from 98 to 2002. There was none of this divide before. I never experienced how left and right worked back then. And I'm saying when I lived in the country for 4 years, it was, you're in the college towns too, but it's like you don't.
And Wisconsin is like a pretty like liberal state, right?
Yeah, well, especially in Madison, it's pretty bad. Madison's pretty bad for liberals and stuff, or good if you like it, well, depending how you like it. But for us, it's like it's pretty bad. But and my buddy Josh and my buddy AJ and Luke, they live there too. And I didn't know that up until like we're golfing in the Wisconsin Dells last year, and they're explaining like, oh no, Madison's gotten really left, like really, really left. I'm like, oh, I had no idea, because before I just never experienced that. It wasn't like somebody like who didn't grow up there would have noticed. Now you notice it, right? So I think COVID really, really shifted a lot of people's perceptions and a lot of ideals.
I got one for you. I think COVID was when it hit critical mass, right? But I believe when Obama became president, it's when it really started. Because think about the times when Obama became president.
Who's also apparently gay. What?
100%.
Well, there's people going, if you don't know what I'm talking about, guys, if people think I'm not talking out of my ass here. There was people that actually went on, they were in court and said like how, they had sexual relations with him when he was a senator and stuff too. And they went on record and described it over and over again. And I'm not talking about the conspiracy theory where Michelle says that she's a man over and over, and how he calls her husband, calls him Michael, and she calls herself Michael, which my wife has never called herself Nathan, like, anyway, sorry. So I can see that. Like, but I think, And that's the problem. Not the problem. I think that was part of the shift because it's their underlying sexual. But somebody else has said this to me. I was reading, and I'm like, they've had gay presidents before. Like FDR apparently would like to wear a dress and all this other stuff too. And there's just hidden like their sexual orientations. Do what you want. I'm like, again, I don't understand why. Like what matters in your bedroom should be coming out into our classrooms. Like you're trying to change because you want to be like everybody is accepting. But I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I think it's gone too far
with the Obama side of things, right? Because around that time, Hurricane Katrina was just like wrapping up, like everything that came about. Because I think Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, ish, 2006, 2007. Google that for you to make sure. Right?
But anyway, yeah.
Obama starts campaigning in 2007. And
on change,
hope, the whole thing that starts happening,
which was all empty.
It was all empty, and
which I liked it. The rhetoric at the time. I think we all, yes, we need change. Yes, we want hope, but he never gave us anything what those change or that hope was.
and mind you, when that happened, I was really excited because I was whoa, a black guy can become president of the United States. This is unprecedented before. So my mindset
really
is like
black?
13 as a 13-year-old. And he's half Kenyan and I'm Kenyan. I was like, well, a Kenyan guy could be president. I was extremely excited about the prospects of that. Then another critical thing happened, right? We had the whole Trayvon Martin thing that happened at the time, which started the entire political divide between this police brutality. We had another...
Remind me of that. What was happening with Trayvon Martin? I'm trying to remember
with
Zimmerman.
Remember Michael Zimmerman? So Trayvon Martin's wearing like a hoodie. He's walking down the street.
Oh, yes,
and then Zimmerman comes to him and says like, hey, like, what's going on? You shouldn't be here. He has like a fake toy gun. Zimmerman gets extremely worried and starts going into self-defense mode, pops Trayvon Martin. And then I
forgot about that.
Yeah. And then the entire thing now became a divide. Now, African Americans in the States were like police brutality. CNN starts pushing this narrative. And now the woke and the left, now the whole I think it started first from like a racial perspective, and then the sexual orientation things started to emerge after that. Strategically, the Democrats saw this as an opportunity to capitalize on this. Major things happened, like Donald Sterling, one of NBA owners.
I remember that. Yes,
said the racist thing.
Oh, I remember those racist comments. Yes,
and statistically, like even though
I always laugh at those owners because they treat black people like slaves. I mean, even to this day, like I'm sorry, I think it's and
am
I wrong? Am I wrong? And have you seen what they've done to the NCAA? I feel bad for the NCAA players.
But I mean, now they're getting paid, but it's not like everyone's getting paid.
They revoked it. They're not supposed to allow it again. Anyway, they've changed it, but it's still not great.
Yeah. So essentially when that happened, there's a lot of triggering events that led up to this. And what I'm trying to communicate to everybody is that when all these things started happening, the magnifying glass started becoming all about police brutality. And statistically, even though there's a lot of deaths underneath police, black people are not really they're not killed as much as what white people are killed per capita in the States. So even though black people are being killed, compared to the whole, all the data, it shows a lot more races are being killed, not just black. But since there's the struggle and the past history of black people being killed and slavery and everything, the narrative became about police brutality and everything like that. So that was the first domino to fall. Now you have the liberal movement coming to like, hey, let's be more accepting. Let's provide more opportunities to certain communities. And now it started ramping up. The advantage of Obama with his second term, he used that. He used that to his advantage. He used the battle cry of the African American community that he's going to do this to stop police brutality. He's going to provide all these opportunities. And now we started shifting. Now every black person started becoming Democrat. The thing is, African Americans used to be conservatives back in the 1940s to 60s. They're typically conservatives. But during this period is when things shifted. So now, going to 2025 DC, now it has become so ramped up that now you have white people feeling what they call white guilt, right? So now you have
well, you have these liberals, white liberals feeling guilty about everything. Then they would go on there and it's like, oh, and they're trying to, yeah.
And they're now trying to like now come to our defense, and they're like, I'm like, no, listen, you don't gotta defend me. I'm okay. Like I don't need you to give me a hand.
Letting criminals out 12 times so they can go stab somebody on a bus, a white girl on a bus. So it has, not even said a word to you. That's where we got to.
And to now to come back to this is where I think it started. And in my opinion, it's going to be very hard to come back to a point where we were, let's say back in 2006, 2007, where things are a little bit more equal and we can have a discussion without you feeling the need to ostracize me or call me some fascist or whatever.
When did the name calling happen? Right? Like so now I don't like, it's funny if you disagree with, and I hate saying this, I remember, I still think we should do right and wrong, but if you agree with anything on the left, they call you a fascist, they call you bigot and misogynist. It's like, if you disagree with them, you get name called.
It's because those names are now weaponized, right? Because if you think about what happened with the Hitler and everything that happened during that time, being called a Nazi is the worst thing you can call someone. Like, it silences you immediately. Like, what do you do to come back from being called that? Think about it.
Tell me how I'm a Nazi, and that's the thing. But you know what? Have you seen all the conspiracy theories behind that too? I don't even want to get into the whole Nazi thing too. And it's like, we talked about how NASA took all like the people, the Germans, and then put them into NASA, like, from the war. There's all this rhetoric of like, I'm not going to say because I don't want to get canceled, but there's a lot of, I keep seeing all this conspiracy stuff happen about like what was actually happening during the Nazi camp. And you can't, like, this one guy was saying, because the numbers keep changing about the amount of Jews and stuff too. I don't know why we're talking about the Nazis, but I forget, it was somebody had a podcast and he was saying, well, I don't think the numbers are right. And he got canceled right away. And it's like, but like, this wasn't me. I was just he was trying to explain it. Anyways, you have a chance, go down those rabbit holes of these conspiracy theories. I'm always a proponent of do your own research, talk about that too. Look what's in the past, look at conspiracy theories, and not just about the Nazi thing, about everything. We've talked about, the flat earth kind of versus the global earth and see what those things sense. We've talked about like, the moon landing, and Buzz Aldrin talked about how they didn't land on the moon, or we talked about all these conspiracy theories. So this is yet another one. I want you guys to go down the rabbit hole. Let me know what you think about it, because I'm not making any statements. It's just like, it could be totally bullshit. Right. But it's funny how history is always written by the winners, right? We always say that too. And we always say that, but you always want to see the other side of the story, right? And it's like, and we know that our history is always written by the winners. I'm always interested to see on the loser side, like what they're seeing. And then there's always the truth in the middle, right? So anyway, I just find that weaponizing somebody, calling them any kind of names, whether it's Nazi or fascist or any of those kinds of things, it's like, you're just being hurtful. Like, it says you're trying to dig in there too. And it's like, well, I don't understand how name calling is going to help with any dialogue. It doesn't help with anybody, right? It's just like, well, explain to me how this or that, right? And I've done that before. Like, remember, I was called racist at one point, and I'm like, how's that possible? Like, explain to me how I'm racist. And they just could never answer. It was another buzzword for somebody to use because I'm white.
Do you feel like these buzzwords that are being weaponized? Even political leaders, I saw one video of Sadiq Khan, he's the mayor of London. They had a massive protest. This protest happened last week. And, he went on records like, hey, these were fascists. These are the far right. He's using the typical language, and he's using this on TV, calling regular, UK citizens. People were just protesting their thoughts about what's happening there.
Which is their legal right to do.
Their legal right to do. That they're fascists and they're Nazis. Do you think people being called this all the time is being watered down now? It's becoming more.
Of course.
It's not as effective as it used to be.
I don't remember ever because now we're not allowed to use the regular, like the words we used to use to make fun of you. Oh, you're gay, or the R word. We never use the N word. We never but because especially our buddies and stuff, you joke around and but it's funny. Well, I had somebody saying they're trying to call me, like, what our buddies are trying to mess with me, call me far right. And it's like, oh, you're more of a fascist. And I was like, well, fascism comes out of socialism, right? It's not, you're talking about totalitarianism is different. Like, how it's actually born. And it's like, well, we can't prove it. And it's actually true if you look at the history of it, right? And anyway, it was just funny. It was just but again, even my buddies were using words which were trying to be hurtful. in a kind of a playful, kind of hurtful way, like kind of just, and I'm like,
trying to freeze you.
I've known these guys for 30 years. There's one guy actually, was my buddy Chris. He's the one we met in Natalie and I met in his basement. We played together since we were in grade 7. I know him. He's like, he comes, "Oh, you're trying to be fascist." And I'm like, what do you even mean by that? You know, like, dude, I've known you for 40 years almost. Like, you know, I was like, all of a sudden now you're using this word. I'm like, sure, my views have changed more than, like, you know, because I'm, you know, now.
It's like, you know me. We go way back.
I know. And I was just like, I think he was just, like, I don't know if he was just trying to be hurtful, but he was like, but I think he's way more left, and that's kind of, I get it. But I'm like, but using that buzzword with us and our boys, and I was like, dude, shut the F up. You know, like, come on, I'm not. And but again, like, if somebody like us gets those words, I'm like, what happens when somebody really is a fascist? Again, that's going to be watered down. You're not going to use that.
You're
like,
going to be able to spot it. Because,
imagine Hitler walks in the room and I'm like, that dude's a fascist. You know what I mean? Like, are you looking at me and like, and you're like, there's going to be a left saying, well, you don't know what his sexual orientation is or something like that.
Is it he, him now?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, you know, I always laugh at when people were using the names, and it's like, well, nobody can define what a woman is on the left until you introduce abortion, you know, and then like, they know exactly who a woman is, right? You know, it's like, and those kinds of things. It just, sometimes their movement is kind of contradictory, right? So like you said, like if somebody calls himself a fascist and you see a real fascist, I'm like, well, what do you call this guy?
When they're talking about when I study them and I can see how they get so over emotional about certain discussions, like you can't even have a topic because they get so riled up with how they feel about certain things. And they,
well, you know why people say that, right?
Why did they say that?
People say that you can feel because you can't deny what somebody feels. You can deny logic and data, but you can never deny what somebody feels.
You can't invalidate that, right?
Right.
So, but this is how far it has gotten, like where your friend is now calling you a fascist. But what I want to understand from your perspective is, what is their intended outcome with adopting this certain woke view of the world?
I think what he was trying to do is try to get me to back down or some of maybe my thoughts. And I'm like, I was like, so critical theory, like one of our friends is like a very smart guy, and I know he's an atheist, and we talk and we jab each other here and two. Say we're on a group chat, right? And we go back to like, I'm like, guys, I'm like, Sam and I are like really tight. We're friends. Like he goes, yeah, we have a lot of, he taught ahead, like, cause he see our jabbing on a road group, and we actually had to tell people, I'm like, no, we're like, we're cool. Like we're cool with each other. We actually enjoy it.
We want to have.
Yeah, we enjoy the jaws. And I always tell, like, even my friends on the left and stuff too, I enjoy their conversations. At the end of them, I say, I appreciate your point of view by bringing me in, because I want to see other people's point of view and to see if it makes sense or not to me. And am I getting too radicalized or not? Right? Because I think that also helps. You need some, and Natalie brings me into some checks and balances. She's always like, make sure you do this. Like I messed up the other day too. I put on I read something wrong, and then and people call me out on it. I'm like, this guy put this on a political page. Did you even read it? I'm like, oh shit, I was wrong. I read it I read it the wrong way. It was like, because they were deporting Canadians for things that they said about Charlie Kirk. They were deporting them. And I was like, oh God, I'm like, oh great. Now we already have like we already have a heartless PM now, and we don't need these guys and like in our country, right? And they're like, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I thought that we were also deporting them because there's Canadian, and I'm like, I read it wrong. So I'm like, yeah, these guys were right. I deleted the quote. But anyway, you need some sort of checks and balances, right? Especially in us, because otherwise we're living in a bubble, right? And that's what we have Isaac back here too. We were talking about some of the stuff with the Charlie Kirk stuff, and he was saying, and I brought to him like, because we just didn't oppose him, but if we needed somebody on here maybe to oppose him, and I get that, that's acknowledgeable. Next time, Isaac, you should jump in there and get a microphone and talk to us about it. Because I think the problem with us two is that we agree with so many things. It's hard to see outside of our bubble. And that's like, we need somebody else to bring us in.
And I mean, to debate you like from an opposing point of view, it's
Absolutely.
hard for me to be
I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I liked about Charlie, when he would push me. I mean, it was a healthy debate. Like him or not like him, right? But I think it was a healthy debate. And I think at some point you can understand the other person's perspective. You don't have to agree with them. And that's the thing I don't understand, is that people like, just because I don't agree with what you're saying does not mean I don't respect you. And I had a conversation with about my stance on abortion when again, another podcast we had to take down, but with somebody in our office, and she doesn't even look at me. I was read a thing yesterday, and I said to her, I'm like, I appreciate your point of view. I'm like, you're not going to change me. I'm not going to change you. That's fine.
She's still even
2 years later.
Yesterday's
I saw her yesterday.
Yeah.
She sat beside my buddy. Remember Anthony? She sat beside Anthony. I said hi to Anthony. She looks away. She sat at my table, wouldn't even sit at me the other day. One of her other.
Did you say hi to her?
Nah, there's no point. Like I wish everything's fine. I'm like, I tried to explain to her. I'm like, I understand your point of view, but she was kind of calling us misogynist. Her point of view, well, you don't have a vagina, so you can't tell people what to do. I'm like, I'm talking about the moral stance about it, right? So anyway, long story short, there's some people. That's one thing I don't like. Always, sometimes ideologies, and sometimes the far right too. Let's not just call them the left. Let's be honest here. Exactly. Both extremes of the political spectrum are both intolerable, in my opinion. You can't talk to either one of them, right? The problem is we just don't see too many people on the far right, or they're not posting things, whereas we see people on the left go nuts and stuff too, and they say stuff that we just see more of it. I think that's also, and my buddy Ed said the same thing. He goes, the problem with you, he goes, you're not posting anything on the other side. I'm like, well, I don't get any of those feeds on the other side. He's like,
I was just about to bring
it up. And I'll say, well, that's why I don't post it. But I'm like, if there's something you think I should weigh in, send it to me. I'll read it. And I'm like, I'm not just posting things against Carney because I think I'm trying to give that guy the benefit of the doubt, but he just keeps screwing up over and over again, in my opinion. Like, he's already ramped up our deficit. It's like, so I'm not going to back to somebody who hasn't done anything since he's been in office, actually made things worse. So, and I'm trying not to be political on these posts, but I'm like, at some point, I'm like, guys, even you guys that voted for him got to see he's not doing what he said he was doing. And that was my point, right? But again, like, but if there is something that you wanted me to see, then don't just say I'm not seeing. Because sometimes, like, well, he said, well, like, remember we talked before, well, we didn't say anything about the Epstein files. And I'm like, well, there's not much to say, because once I read why they're not, I'm like, I got it. I understood why they weren't doing them. But he was telling me about some Democrat, a senator who got shot or something like that. He goes, you didn't post that. I'm like, nobody posted about it that I know. So don't just blame me. I didn't even see that. If you saw it, I'm like, a human being got killed. I don't care if it's a Democrat or some, like a realtor got, one of those realtors got killed. I didn't ask her what her political association was. It was like, literally, a woman got killed. We posted about it, right?
Mm-hmm. This is another thing we don't really discuss too, is how much of the algorithms, especially Twitter.
How much about what?
The algorithms of Twitter, Facebook, they kind of create like an echo chamber for you.
I think that's the problem.
That's the problem. Because when you see the same thing over and over, it reaffirms your beliefs again and again.
Oh, it's so bad.
And even for me too, I'm like, I also got to check myself sometimes too, because I'm like,
this is my point. I think they're pushing us, and like they're trying to divide us. All right. And I think it's part of the algorithms. Like, they try to divide us. Right. Like, once it's funny, depending on what mood I'm in. What mood I'm in? That's the app I'll watch. Like, sometimes I'll go back and have a cigar and I'll just watch TikToks, because it's all about like conspiracy theories and God. That's all it is.
And it just makes you feel good.
There's no boobs and no kitty cats and no nothing like that too. If I want to watch kitty cats, or I want to see like scantily dressed going, like, Natalie laughs at me, I'm like, well, like, she doesn't like it. I was like, it's on my feed. I'm like, okay, if I'm in the mood to see boobs. Hey, listen, I'm married, I'm not buried, I still like to see boobs.
Yeah, you're still a man at the end of the
day. But it is what it is. But it's true, right? Because you get in these echo chambers, but it's all like, so sometimes, like when Charlie Kirk had died, and still to this day, I got bombarded by it. I'm like, I was like exhausted. I said, it was draining all my energy. And now he's like, you just got to get off your phone. And I said, I know, man. It was bad.
It's gone to that point for me too, like where everything on my X, which is called Twitter before, was everything Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens. And, you start becoming enraged by this, because now anything that opposes that, you're like, I don't want to hear it. Like, you guys are woke, you guys are whatever.
I just got to this thought, and now you're saying it's not real?
It's not
like,
real.
Are you kidding me? I'm going to start all over again?
Now it's not like you're reloading your thinking again. So I was like, and the thing is, it's so addictive, because it's like what I look at in between certain things. I'll be walking, let me check a couple TikToks, let me check a couple things. And my mind now has become so...
I'm just giggling.
Drilled in. It's become so drilled in with all these ideas and thoughts that sometimes, even let's say someone who is a person on the left who opposes my ideas, they might not be extreme. They might say something to me that opposes just one little thing. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. So I'm also someone to blame. I can also blame myself too, because I'm like, yeah, like I also am part of the problem because of everything that's going on. One thing that Elon did when he bought Twitter was that Twitter before used to silence a lot of people who disagreed with the common left ideology. And when he bought it, it became like a platform known as like a free speech platform. So Elon now gave silent voices the ability to speak up and not feel like they're going to be canceled, they're going to get their account deleted. And this is one of the repercussions that was going on, is that people were starting to lose things, which also empowered the left side to also become more bolder now, because they were like, oh, wow.
Well, what I don't like what the left did for us too is, like, especially for here in the which would be the government, they removed news stories. So we can't even share news stories. And that's like, I'm like, so I have friends in the States, like, hey, is this true? I'm like, I can't see it. They have to send me like a screenshot and I have to go and look at it herself. And it's like, I don't see, that's a problem, right? Like when you're trying to restrict stuff, there's problems with the algorithms, but there's also restrictions of free speech, which also is not like, I remember I said, I tried to just, if I say anything that I don't like about the government, and it's like, then like, you can't post that. It's just funny. It's like, well, it's free speech. Well, I'm not like, it's not hate speech. It's like, what do you mean? If I call them like, these guys are out to lunch, you can't write that. I'm like, really? It's like, but then now there's other apps now like have like Discord and things like that, where now you can start, if you talk about echo chambers, like think about that. Like you have to go on Discord, because that's going to be a total right, like an app. And like, imagine indoctrinated those people. I haven't downloaded it, and I won't download it because I'm like, I think those people are a little bit too beyond me right now.
Yeah. It's these tech platforms, I also think were a major contributor to that, because we should not have this much access to so many thoughts at once, where they quickly, and I think that's what ramped it up, is that we got so much access to people's thinking and thoughts 24/7. Before bed, I'm scrolling. And imagine now my subconscious mind, when I go to bed, now that forms my view of the world. And I just think it's so dangerous what we're doing with these platforms.
Well, that's why I'm like, as much as we say that we use social media for all of our, like, for all of our livelihood, and I use it for business, everything else, you have to be careful. It's a tool, and it's not, from what we've seen, like even the creators of Microsoft and Apple, they wouldn't let their kids have phones and stuff. So it's,
we shouldn't have this much access. Yeah. Honestly, we shouldn't have this much access. As we work towards wrapping up, like, I know I asked you this, but I also just want to get a defining answer on your side of things. Like, what do you think this means now moving forward? Right? I mean, you can take your time to think about it, but to me, it's scary.
It wasn't like I didn't answer it. It was just like, because we wanted to see where things have gotten. I'm kind of scared of the future. What I see happening is a clear divide between two ideologies, that it's going to cause some sort of civil war. And I know, sorry for the doomsday kind of stuff, but I think that's what it's setting up. And I think that the government has a part in it. I think in the US and Canada, I think they're doing it on purpose. They're making us poor, desperate, and pushing us against each other. That's something I think more in the States than here in Canada. But Canada, they're just running us broke, I think, but I think there's definite, the algorithms are working, because I've never seen so much discord in my life with every kind of topic. Like, something which should have been black and white is no longer black and white. It's totally gray. Like, just the murder of somebody, like assassination of somebody. Like I said, we're talking off air. Like, yeah, sure, like when Malcolm X was killed, or when Martin Luther King was killed and stuff too. Like, I don't think people were, at least we didn't know about people cheering for their deaths. And Isaac put it a good way. There's probably people cheering. We just didn't see them. We didn't see it. And it also, I'm guaranteed there were some white supremacists who absolutely love watching those two die, right? Which is a scary thought. But thank God it wasn't publicized and getting other people on your side and agreeing with you. Because think about why were people posting about the death of Charlie Kirk? Because they wanted that other people on their side going, yeah, me too, right? That didn't happen back then too. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a definite plan, and it's working to get two people opposed to each other. We started off, as I said, 10 years ago like this. Like, ideologies were so close. How do we get so far? And I think a lot of it has to do with these stupid things.
Yeah, the phones. Yeah. Nothing has been publicized as this, like, or shown in real time. I think the one I mentioned a couple of weeks back in the episode 141 is John JFK, the assassination, when he was coming down on the street in his car with his wife. Other than that, like, this is the closest thing we've gone to, like, a quote unquote political figure.
But some of the things, the facts are still like, so Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. There's multiple. If you looked at the autopsy of JFK, like, he had multiple shots. And for Harvey Oswald to have killed him, it had to have ricocheted like 15 times in his body. There's footage of it leaked, like, scrubbed, where people have seen him shooting and stuff. Like, so there is as much conspiracy with that killing as we have now. And so they say we may never get the answers of any of these killings.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, let us know what you think of what's been happening in the world. Where do you think we're going? What do you think the state is, and how you're feeling about things? We'd definitely love to get your thoughts. And as well, go on DC's Instagram and TikTok. We post the clips from these episodes there, and let us know your thoughts. We just want to have a conversation. We've definitely been having conversations. I saw the Beyonce one. There's a lot of people who were
She's the devil. I know. My friend Odine from the show, and she's like, that was hateful. I'm like, what did I say was hateful? I think she's terrible. I think she's the devil on earth. I'm sorry. I just do. There's nothing about that woman that I think is redeeming anymore. I'm sorry. And it's just, and if you think it's hateful, well, it's like, well, let's see what God says when she dies.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, we'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Have a great week. Stay safe and God bless you. Peace out.